Hello there, my name is Winnie Okello and I am the founder of the Harassment and Assault Reporting Platform, also known as H.A.R.P. Yes, see? So simple. H.A.R.P is a Pennsylvania-based nonprofit organization purposed with the objective of increasing education as well as awareness of harassment and assault-related incidents. And more importantly, it's making reporting of these incidents as well as collecting of contextual data more accessible to people, not only witnesses, but survivors as well, of these incidents. And so, even though I'm an engineer, I'm a civil and environmental engineer by training, I am a social justice and community advocate by passion and choice. Absolutely. And so you can find out more about H.A.R.P by visiting our website. That's at www.harpnow.org. That's HARPNOW.org. Or if you're on social media platforms, connect with us at harpnow.org. That's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You can find us by just typing at HARPNOWORG. See? And so I would like to thank you first and foremost. Thank you for supporting this year's KEDO's fundraising campaign to help build a health clinic in Sino County, Liberia. And please support in any way you can. I am honored to participate in this year's campaign as we highlight the importance of health as well as wellness. Particularly with regards to harassment and assault and issues affecting, women and health, community health in rural areas, especially rural areas in sub-Saharan Africa. When we talk about harassment and assault, especially in context of health and wellness, it is very integral to individual as well as communal health, wellness, and safety, right? A lot of people don't really connect those things all together. And this topic touches on several aspects of health and wellness, from physical to emotional to mental health, right? Which is a big thing, which is also something that's often not talked about in our African communities. As a Kenyan-born person, that is a topic that even in Western society only till recently began to be a focus. How childhood experiences end up affecting our long-term mental health into adulthood, and as well as how we interact and relate with other people. And so that also ties into the wellness aspect of public safety, right? Communal trauma, communal experiences, and how those affect our health and wellness. Sadly, this is a topic that is often overlooked, and quite honestly, more often it is intentionally, kind of glided over, especially within our African community, let's be honest, because it's often seen as taboo, right? Or unsavory. That's that thing that we don't address. But as I have been a witness, to these experiences, and sometimes also like I've had my own brushes with, let's say, something as common as street harassment, street and transit harassment, right? Which is kind of how I got into this work, was from the angle of street and transit harassment from a transportation perspective. Yeah. You can find out more about that if you're interested in that. And so for me, having this opportunity to take a couple moments to address with you out there the importance of education and awareness of harassment and assault in context of health and wellness, it is important that we begin to intentionally address these issues and give them the merit and the weight that they deserve in our communities, because they do have adverse long-term health effects that are particularly targeted to African communities, both in the continent and throughout the diaspora. And especially when we talk about rural areas, right? Rural areas that oftentimes may not have access, the necessary transportation access to urban centers or reporting centers. It's very important to make these mechanisms of reporting more accessible. And so whether we're talking about, street or transit harassment, domestic abuse and domestic violence, workplace harassment, coercion, all the way to police-related incidents via abuse of power, it is important to educate folks on these issues so that they are not only better informed, but they also have the language and context to share their experiences and explain and also enforce their boundaries of consent and bodily autonomy. This is really important. My friend Kay always says, words matter, language matters, context matters, right? And so as we begin to speak up more and more about these incidents, it will be helpful for the community to live healthier and happier and safer, right? When we're able to have more candid conversations on what consent looks like, on consent and bodily autonomy looks like in context of this discussion of harassment and assault. And we cannot ignore the fact that COVID has absolutely had an impact on harassment and assault prevalence, right, across the globe. And, we've seen cases, increased cases of domestic assault or domestic abuse. We've seen women and children across the African continent experience increased incidents or increased rates of domestic abuse. We've seen cases of reproductive coercion, both in women and even underage girls. These are very real experiences that people have that oftentimes don't even have the language or the context to express what's going on or to, understand the experiences that they've had. Then when we even begin to talk about workplace harassment, as we know, it's been difficult at times to, maintain a job throughout COVID. We've seen also increased cases of workplace coercion and harassment related incidents, especially to our female workers, quid pro quo type scenarios. And this is why this work is important. This is why this topic of discussion is important, because these incidents end up affecting people's emotional health, your mental health, right? Physical health could absolutely be impacted by these incidents of abuse. And so even when we then direct it towards children, right, childhood experiences for the young folks in the community, we've seen increased cases of child abuse, as well as, as I mentioned before, underage pregnancies have definitely spiked, even as we saw a lot of the students, for the young folks who were in school and schools closed down and they had to, go home and they were not able to be in an educational environment. We've seen underage pregnancies actually increase. And, keeping in mind that, Liberia and especially rural parts of Liberia have high maternal as well as infant mortality rates, right? That is concerning. And numbers typically get worse as you move away from urban centers that have better access to trained medical professionals, as well as the necessary medical equipment needed. So it's important for us to support these causes so that, we're helping, folks have a better chance at healthier lives, right? And because it's also good for the community, right? It's not only have healthier lives, but you also get to live happier lives, and that's important. That helps maintain one's health. Also, one of the things that we've seen, especially during COVID, is this increase of police abuse of power, right? Through excessive force and coercion towards civilians, especially women, in the name of quarantine compliance, right? And there are studies and reports being shown that this is very real in this season. And so, it is important that we, again, highlight the importance of communal health, communal safety, and wellness. And again, let's not forget that also boys do experience harassment and assault as well. It just comes with a different set of stigma, right? That society oftentimes imposes on them when they consider coming out and saying, hey, this thing happened to me. I experienced this incident. How do I even deal with it? How do I even begin to talk about it? Because oftentimes we're even missing the basic language to convey, hey, this happened, or this is how I feel, and then they begin to wonder, well, what does this mean about my masculinity? What does this mean about me being a boy, me becoming a man? It really triggers a lot of mental and emotional and psychological questions, when folks experience these incidents of harassment and assault that tend to have significant long-term health effects. And so by increasing education, increasing awareness, we empower folks to be able to stand up for themselves, and also be able to stand up for somebody else when they happen to be a witness to such incidents. There's power in being a witness. Oftentimes people assume, especially when it comes to harassment and assault, oh, if it didn't happen to me, then there's no part for me to play in it. But that is not true. There is a power. There is a certain power and privilege in being not the primary party directed or impacted. And we also do have secondhand trauma by people who happen to witness these very, unwelcomed incidents, and at times end up being tragic incidents, fatal incidents. And so if we educate people to be able to address these scenarios while they're still in the harassment phase, especially before those incidents escalate to becoming physical and, end up resulting in assault incidents. If you stop it while it's still harassment, you have a better chance of having less, dire adverse effects, right, to the individual's health and wellness. The abuse that surrounds that, especially in context of children or childhood experiences, right? We often talk about how ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, have long-term adverse health effects. And this is one of them, right? Abuse via harassment or assault is an example of an ACE that could happen to a person while they're young. And so we want to make sure also in this effort, your support goes into, encouraging and supporting education opportunities for better health and wellness and public safety, really, for environments such as these in southeast Liberia. And, studies have shown that a lot of these incidents often go underreported, even in developed areas, even in urban centers. And so, one could therefore extrapolate the fact that if it's hard to get the data in areas where, you have more people, better accessibility to reporting areas or reporting tools, how much worse does it get than when you go into the more rural areas where sometimes you may not even have the necessary transportation means to get to a reporting station, right? That's a very real problem, because availability does not always equal accessibility, especially when you live in a rural area, right? And therefore, education is key to, creating these healthier and safer communities, and especially in the efforts to increase accessibility for reporting mechanisms, hence H.A.R.P, right? H.A.R.P is a platform that you can use to report an incident or share your experiences from anywhere, as long as there's internet service, right? Understandably so. Also, we know that internet access is not always consistent everywhere, especially across rural areas in Africa. But we're seeing a lot of tech giants really investing heavily in the connectivity, not only in utilities, but also in internet access, because as we're moving forward in this fifth industrial revolution, internet access is no longer a luxury commodity. It's actually a utility that is very necessary to the sustainability of any community, especially in the long term, as we see technology becoming more and more ingrained into our everyday lives, and even in terms of e-commerce and how the future of business looks like, and in terms of communal development and community empowerment. Access to internet, it will definitely be necessary, right? And which is why I'm glad that with H.A.R.P, right, we're making sure that like we're providing a platform that is accessible anywhere as long as you have internet access. It's important to teach consent and bodily autonomy from a very young age, actually. Now, please don't freak out just yet, because I know like the moment I speak on consent or bodily autonomy, a lot of people kind of begin to clutch their pearls, right? Because like, oh, I don't know, that's uncomfortable. Exactly, right? But let me clarify. Consent and bodily autonomy is not only associated with adult interactions. Consent and bodily autonomy is essential in our everyday interactions. And whether we're navigating private spaces or public spaces in this built environment, from stuff as simple as walking to and from school, getting to and from work, using public transport, navigating, workspaces, navigating, school or shared environments. Consent matters. And when we begin to teach our young folks from an early age that they're allowed to say no, you're allowed to speak up when somebody makes you feel uncomfortable. It is okay to own your space. It's okay to own your bodily autonomy, and to be able to provide language and context for that, so that if an incident occurs, the person is able to verbalize what happened, so we can get them the help that is needed to live a healthier life after those incidents occur. That is where we're trying to get to. You can absolutely teach that outside the context of any adulterated scenarios. And so at the end of the day, it's like making sure that folks can ask for the help, ask for the medical attention if needed, ask for emotional support and advocacy if needed when these incidents occur. And as I said before, a lot of these incidents do go underreported and unreported, right? Because it's taboo. It's taboo. It could be embarrassing for some people. It could be conflicting to one's identity and understanding of self, or it gets complicated easily. And so I am so grateful that I've been allowed this opportunity to address this topic in the context of community health and safety and wellness. And so and I'm glad that you are taking an interest in this topic as well. It is important, regardless of where you are across the globe, because these are global issues, as I like to call them. They're global issues with local solutions, right? And solutions that ought to be contextual to the local needs, right? Because harassment and assault looks different depending where you are around the globe, depending what season it is, right? That's, these are all underlying factors to what and how people define or experience these incidents. Hopefully now you have a clearer picture on how communal health and wellness and public safety are tied to the harassment and assault, incidents that take place each and every day across the globe. Research has been shown time and time again in context of underage pregnancies, child abuse, workplace harassment, gender-based violence, right? Because things such as FGM still very much exist. Abuse and coercion of young boys and girls, by folks in positions of power still very much exists in our societies. And because we all want safer public spaces as well as private spaces, whether you're at home, you're in the workplace, you're at public gathering places, you're worshiping places, commuting from one place to another, H.A.R.P is proud to not only help make it easier to gather these data, this contextual data, because that's really been the missing piece. It's not only, helping people, more easily access reporting mechanisms, but also be able to collect data that provides a bit more of that context in the cofactors that contribute to these incidents occurring and being perpetuated in certain contexts, right, in society. More than, collecting data sets, being a data repository. H.A.R.P aims to highlight people's stories because we are more than just data points, right? There's a story behind every data point that comes into H.A.R.P that, whether it's via our H.A.R.P it buttons, which is, how folks can submit harassment or assault incidents, or a police brutality related incident. You can H.A.R.P it on the H.A.R.P website. Alternatively, you could also take 6 minutes out of your day and complete the climate surveys. That would be really appreciated. It's right there on the website. Go on the homepage. There's a link right there. Or if you scroll to the footer, can't miss it. Your support is very appreciated. And again, we want to be able to help people share their stories. Not only, help us, create more realistic databases, but also give you the opportunity, if you happen to be a witness of these incidents, if you happen to be a victim or survivor of these incidents, we want to make sure that we provide you a safe space to share your story and hopefully help the next person, empower the next person to speak up and know that they're not alone. Know that there is life beyond these incidents, life after these incidents, and one can live a healthier, fulfilled life even after experiencing harassment or assault. And so, to me, education is absolutely a key factor in communal uplifting and communal empowerment, right? And whether it's via formal or informal education, there's value in lived experiences. Absolutely. And, because I remember when I was a young kid growing up in Kenya, there was this saying that it's a Kiswahili saying, elimu ndio taa ya taifa. Translated, education is the light of a nation, right? It is this understanding that education, right? Not indoctrination, but education that is information that is applied effectively can light a pathway for better outcomes, right? That's important. And as a woman in the STEM and STEAM sector, I would like my fellow, sister girls out there, my fellow women out there, and the younger generation across the globe to know that there are so many career opportunities out there for them, right? To know that there are possibilities beyond the limitations of their current circumstances. And through your help, through your support, through your donation today, you will be able to do that. You'll be able to make that impact on somebody's life. And to me, that is one of the biggest things anybody could ever do, is to positively impact their community, both local and global, and impact somebody's life for the better. There's really no price for that. You can put a price tag, but that is worth everything in this world. Which is why I'm an avid social justice and community advocate. It's an innate thing in me. And so, if you like what you've heard today, if you're interested in this topic and you'd like to learn more about it, do connect with us. That's at www.harpnow.org, and learn more about how you can even make a difference right where you are in your local community across the globe, wherever you may be. So be sure to check us out. Again, that's www.H.A.R.P.NOW.org. There's an informative blog on there. There's a resources page that has links, some helpful links for people who are looking to get more information on this topic. You can also submit an incident via the H.A.R.P it buttons. Also, if you have 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, to take two very brief surveys. We have one survey on harassment and assault related incidents, and we have a second survey on police brutality related incidents. And that'll be very helpful. So thank you in advance if you happen to take those 5 minutes to support H.A.R.P that way. And if you happen to be on social media, be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter at HARPNOW.org. Again, that's HARPNOW.org. I would like to thank you again for supporting this year's fundraiser to help the families in need in the most remote areas of Southeast Liberia, and making sure that they get to live healthier and happier lives as a result of your impact in their lives. You never know the impact, the true long generational impact that your support could mean to even a single family out there. Every bit counts. I assure you, every bit counts in this work. And so your support, please remember that your support, no matter how big or small, it's absolutely appreciated. Absolutely. So with that, stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. And in all you do, be encouraged. I hope to connect with you on the H.A.R.P platforms if you'd like to connect with me and learn more about this topic and how you can support your local community and global communities out there in need. Thank you.